Introducing Nose to Tail, a podcast where we explore the world of aviation lifecycle solutions, insights, and more. Presented by Jet Midwest.
Welcome back to the Nose to Tail podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Kraus, COO of Jet Midwest. I'm here with Delphine Kennedy from DBK Aero. Delphine, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. What about you?
I'm doing really well. Now, you're joining us remotely from your office over in the UK. As we've gotten to know each other just a little bit, I think we have some curious parallel paths. So I think I'll probably start this podcast with a little bit of family. So both of my grandfathers had different journeys, but also in aviation. One of my grandfathers was the head of the Air National Guard during World War II and was a pilot. And then my other grandfather actually worked for Boeing on the assembly line. And my family grew up in Wichita, so it's no challenge to understand why they had that connection. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your family history, maybe starting with your dad?
Yes, of course. Well, I was born basically with like smelling the jet fuel from my dad. He was firstly in the Navy. And then started working for an MRO as a mechanic on ATR-focused aircrafts. I'm such a daddy's little girl, so I was always like, wow, what are you doing? So in France, when you're a daughter or son of, you can do like some summer jobs in the company. And so I started when I was 16, doing some summer job over there at, well, it's called now Sabina Technics, used to be TAT Industries. So that was 25 years ago. And I just fell in love with the industry straight away. I was absolutely blown away by all the details that goes into an aircraft flying and just the smell. I was hooked on the smell, let me tell you that. So then I just like, I did a little bit of school, had my A-level, or bachelor, you say, in America, and then I just started straight away doing more summer job at Sabina Technics. And then when I was 21, I just took my mom's car and went for my first job interview in the UK at Aftermarket, actually. So that's how, when it started, like 20 years ago.
That's fantastic. So I actually am very familiar with TAT and Sabina Technic. So Jet Midwest, as you might not be aware, but some of our folks probably are. We were one of the early adopters in the dismantle market for the Fokker 100, and we were one of the largest suppliers in the world. So we did an awful lot of work there with those colleagues. Probably your dad probably installed some of our parts on some of those airplanes. So that's a pretty cool connection. So you went from being around the technical side, maybe a little bit of technical mechanical, into working for Avtrade. Was that directly into a parts role?
Yes, I think one of the last summer job that I did, so I did one in the MRO subcontracted part, then I did one in the trading department, and the last one was at the AUG desk, which most of the guys are still there, so that's just epic to remember them 20 years later and have many, many stories. But yeah, so at the end of that summer job, everyone I had on the phone, I was asking for a job. So it was anywhere in the planet. And after it was the first one that was like, well, actually, we're growing, so come for an interview. So I just went and did not know how to speak English much. I could understand it, but speaking was another level. And I just learned, and that's something that's been incredible in the UK, and why probably I'm still there 20 years later, is just the fact that they let you try. It's not about what's on your resume. It's about you just try, and if you succeed, then you grow with the company. And for me, like, the brokering side was amazing. It's something that I think I have in me. But then I was like, okay, I think I want to do something else. So went back to Sabina Technics for a couple of years. And then I worked for a dismantling company, UAM, which you guys know. We used to do some deals together. And that was like really epic and made me grow massively. Had amazing mentor in every companies that I've worked for, really. But again, I was just like, okay, I want to learn more different sides. So then I went to work for an OEM. That taught me a hell of a lot as well on a complete different side. Until I was like, okay, what should I do next? And COVID happened, and I was like, wow, I think I can do it by myself. So my husband, who's like an amazing champion of me, was just like, let's do it. So I put all my savings, put our house like on the line with the bank, and got a loan and started DBK. So that's now 4.5 years ago, basically.
That's a great journey. You know, you name dropped a couple of companies there that are people that everybody's probably familiar with. Maybe you could talk a little bit about leadership and maybe how some of those mentors led you to who you are today.
So I would say like one that made me grow like massively was Kerry Wright from UAM at the time, and she had just taken over ownership of the company, and it was just like incredible to see how her brain was working, and I just wanted to follow everything she was saying, and maybe it was too much for me at the time as well. And I was like, wow, like my brain is not wired like yours, but I mean, still today, there's some stuff that I'm living by, that I've been like, I was taught from that time. So like absolutely amazing. And then you've got like the entire other like leaderships. Like I worked as well at the last company before DBK was Aviation Concept with Dean, which you guys know as well very well. And yeah, it's been amazing to. He gave me the cards to do kind of whatever I wanted, but then obviously COVID hit, and I was like, okay, what's the next step for me? And that's why I was like, well, I think it's time. It's time for me to do what I want the way I want it, and in all the regions that I want to touch, and that push my little DBK touch to the business, to the industry, add a woman-owned business basically in there, which is very important for me.
Yeah, you know, you mentioned Carrie Wright. I remember the first time I met her at her offices in Memphis, and I don't know if it was an old bank building or something, but it was kind of a really nice brick building with glass windows all the way around, and it was all tinted. And I go into her office, and we're just kind of having a conversation, and she had these neon dry erase markers, and she wrote all over the inside of her windows, and I was like, those are amazing. And I literally went, as soon as I got back to the office in Kansas City, I'm buying some of those, and I started writing on my window that was in my office, so I could have another surface to write on. And she certainly loved what she did, and she too is a pilot. I think she trains, came from pilot training parents, and flew us from Memphis down to her warehouse in Tupelo. Did a tour and checked out some material down there. But yeah, no, she was really amazing, and took a huge leap to take over that company, and their business model was a little bit different than ours, but they certainly did some really good things down there. So now you mentioned women in aviation. I'm sure she was a big influence on your perspective, and I've mentioned this previously on other episodes, but you know, I'm really proud of Jet Midwest. We have a lot of women in our leadership team. And people ask me about it, and I say, you know, we didn't really, it wasn't with intent. It was intent to hire the best person for the job and bring the best person we could into the organization. They just happened to be women. And I think in a lot of the industry, women struggle to either be attracted to the industry or to have maybe get some purpose fulfilled within it. Maybe you could talk a little bit about women in aviation and maybe what our industry needs to start doing differently to attract women to it.
Yes, so I think in 20 years, like the mentality has changed dramatically, like in an amazing way. We're still like a long way to go, but there's already like been progress, and it's just one woman at a time that the progress like keeps going on basically. But 20 years ago, I remember, I think my first big show was ACPC in New York. So that would have been 2007, I think. And I was like, what is that? And I think it was maybe like 10 women that really stood out, and then like about 5,000 men. And I was like, well, there is obviously like a good thing about it, because then you get noticed. And the more trade shows you go, like I used to like meet all the people more than my own family, because every month there's somewhere else to go. But then seeing like how women has been growing, I think like on the sales level and even in warehouses and other areas, like women have definitely, like I've seen more of them, which is amazing. I think on the C level, there's still like a lack in some businesses, but then it depends like who you want. And you've said it right. It's not about just putting a woman in that position, is to put like the best person for the job. And sometimes it will not be a woman, and that's okay as well. But I will definitely champion every time of the way, like if I can, like to put women there and to just show as well, like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a role model, but through LinkedIn and Women in Aviation, like I do help like a lot of women, young and less young, like asking like, oh, I want to build my own business, or how did you do this or that, and how is it working in the UK? And for me, I will have all the time in the world to answer all these questions. Like, I have no problem at all doing that, because I just want more of us. And because we bring something different, I think, as well to the industry. And there's just a need for everyone.
You know, you bring up a good point. I've been very lucky to have had lots of people I can ask questions to, and I think our industry itself is pretty open to people who want to learn. There will be someone there that'll teach, that'll give you some kernel of knowledge, or that'll help bring you along. Oftentimes, when I have somebody that a customer or maybe even a vendor, and they're having a challenge with something, and I'm not really the solution, but I can probably connect them to a solution. And a lot of times they're curious, especially a customer, like, you're not going to insert yourself in the middle. It's no, it's okay. You just go out there and solve this problem. And I think this person probably can guide you to where you need to go better than I can, and just go and take that information, and hopefully you get that solved. And I think that approach, in some industries, it's just not that way. Some industries are just too cutthroat, and we're not going to support any solution for you. We're going to have our own solution, and if you're not using us, then we don't want anything to do with it. And the customer service, I think, maybe in aviation is so special because of that need of just saying, hey, we got to help. I mean, for goodness sake, when you were working the AOG desk, you were looking for any solution to that AOG problem. You didn't really care where it came from. You just needed one, right?
That's amazing. And like you mentioned the AOG desk, and it's funny because when I started with UAM, I obviously Donnie Maxwell was my VP at the time, and like when I saw him, it was like, Delphine, I remember you saved my life on an AOG, like 5 years, 7 years ago. So that was when I was doing like just the summer job, and I was 17 years old on the AOG desk. And he was like, you saved me with like an ATR part that nobody, and you told me everything. You went to the warehouse, took pictures, because that's what I used to do. And because I loved like the smell so much, if I could go to the warehouse, I would, like, just to see what I was selling as well. I was like, this is exciting. This is like something that's like $10,000, which will be like small like that, and something that maybe just $500 and will be like the size of a pylon. Like, it's just like, I just love knowing exactly like what we're selling. And it was funny to have that connection, because I was hired before he remembered that. And it was just like, okay, we're on the same level of like, customer service and commitment, and, whatever role you're doing. Like, even when I was like 17, I was like, I will do my best, and I don't care if my job finish at 5. I will, if I have to stay until 7, I will. Like, that's just who I am. Just some professionalism. I think that was taught like from my parents, really. But yeah, I think like, I mean, AOGs are the life, basically.
For anybody who hasn't had the opportunity to be wakened up at 2:00 in the morning by a phone call for some $150 part, and they have to get up and go to the warehouse and pull it and package it and ship it out the door. And there's no money made, but you did save someone's bacon. It is a pretty impactful moment, and people really do care when you're able to solve those things, and you care as much about the $150 part as the $150,000. Again, that's impressive. And, and it sounds like as an entrepreneur, you've really taken to heart the lessons that you've learned through your career about how to build relationships and make some of those things special. Now, I am aware that you've developed an AI tool, the SRP. Help us understand, what does SRP stand for? Let's start there.
So it's for Smart Revenue Partner Program, basically. It's some sort of consignment, but I've tweaked it in a way that for me was needed in the market, because I could see over the years, and like all the airlines and anyone like always having so much surplus and not knowing what to do. And you've got the normal consignment that everybody is kind of doing. And I was like, well, if I want to tap into that market, I need to be different. So it took me like maybe a year to tweak everything. And like you said, like with AI, I had to implement, because we're a very small team of 2 here for now. And I was like, well, we really need to be on point and be able like to quote customer like 24/7. I knew some of the tools that are like already available right now. I did not like them. So I had one kind of like made exactly for what I needed. And that is beautiful and working really well. It's just like some kind of like auto quoting, but there's way more like, I would say, AI into it as well. And for me, like, it's not about like taking a percentage off for the customer, like to have that kind of like whatever like revenue left. For me, it's like you get everything and then we'll make my money like another way. And this SRP program is more about like a partnership and proving them that we're just like getting started basically, and that we will do everything that we can to maximize the revenue for them. And I think like we started it in March last year, so not even a year ago. And so far we have signed 6 end users, and they're all talking to each other, and we're getting some more like saying like, hey, I heard like so and so is really happy with your SRP program. Can we get like on the bandwagon basically? And I was like, yes, absolutely. But without this tool, I would not be able like to do all the quoting 24/7 with everything including, especially when you're so small and you don't have like, I don't have the cash flow like to input like a $50,000 implementation. It's just step by step. So we're doing our best, but it's definitely working. We've got 3 more on the line right now. So yeah, it's really cool to know that there was something that I saw was missing, and like Tune finding it, and now like making it work like live, and everybody being like more than happy. I had one customer actually that didn't want it because he didn't understand the concept of it, and he was like, I can do better. I was like, no problem. 6 months later, in December, I see the same stock list. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy it, but I was like, should we now put it in the program and see like if it's working or not? It was like, okay, go on. I mean, 48 hours later, we had 3 orders for them, and they were like, oh man, we missed 6 months of revenue. I was like, yes, but now you know. So that's fine. And I like everybody. I'm not a pushy person. And I'm just like, everything comes organically. And it's like the business. We're almost 5 years in, and we're just getting started basically with growth. And I'm just still learning every day, like how to do stuff. And as you know, like obviously you guys are like this huge company, but one day it will be me as well.
Well, I hope so. I remember very early on in my career, I think I was the 4th total person, and I started in the warehouse. Like you, I really enjoy being around the parts. Probably more today because I don't do it very often. When it was my only job, I probably was grumpier, but I certainly built that passion for it. So hopefully you're on that journey to get yourself to some mega company. And I'll tell you, harnessing AI is an interesting journey for all of us. The whole world's going to have to deal with an AI evolution. I really think that the people who are going to be able to really thrive in the AI environment are the ones who really understand how to have a human factor that correspondingly joins that journey with the AI tool. Because you and I talk to each other and sharing experiences and learning lessons from the successes and failures of the past. That's a lot of what you need to be able to A, get the development, and B, you need to be, I don't know that computer will be as empathetic with that person on the other side versus saying, yes, sorry, I have no stock. Yeah, then that's going to be it. So I think there's certainly some great things coming, and it's glad that you've been able to harness that. Exciting for your first year. Now, are you going to be at MRO Americas this year, working with your clients to continue to promote that?
I will not be at MRO Americas. I will be at MRO Singapore, where we're exhibiting as well. And then we will be at MRO Europe in Amsterdam. And we will be as well doing MTB in Osaka this year. It is like for the Asian side. So that's exciting. I've never been to Japan. So very excited about that. And might go to ACPC. I'm not sure yet. I'm waiting to see like who's going and everything, because it's always like the tricky one. But I've done so many of them. It's one that I really love as well.
Yeah, every trade show has its own personality, and ACPC certainly has a personality that's grown, and it really is. That is who they are, and it's a lot of fun. And certainly there's a lot of really good business that's happening there because you get so many people in such a high density area. If you don't have a conversation, then you're not trying.
Yes. And it's such like, for me, like this aviation industry is like some kind of family as well. I've got some of my closest friends that I've had like since like years and years. And it's just been absolutely amazing. Like just to be able like to see our careers like really moving as well and growing. And, like people saw me like from when I was like not even an adult to like then becoming like a woman kind of, and then like becoming like pregnant. I was at ACPC like 6 months pregnant, I think, in San Diego. And then like becoming a mom as well. And now like an owner of my own brokering company. And that's just like, it's sweet to see like everyone like growing with you as well. And they know you, so they know your whole path. And I think that's like one of the best about this industry, really. It's just like, just knowing those people.
Now, earlier you had a brief commentary about your job history, and you talked about moving from the parts industry and then going and working for an OEM. Maybe talk a little bit about the differences in how those companies operated and maybe the impact it had on what you decided to come out of there, and now you're working on your own. What lessons did you learn from the aftermarket side to the OEM?
It was an incredible opportunity, and it taught me so much. It taught me, well, first the political side of it, because obviously I've always been in companies that were maybe like 50 or 100 employees tops. And then suddenly going into this OEM, which was like thousands and thousands. And I was like there to develop the global trade surplus for the entire group. And when you go to an OEM and you're like, so you see like what you're like manufacturing, but it's taking you 365 days for $185,000. So the same is available repaired at 20,000. So I'm just gonna like stock it. So when we're like, when we've got some issues with customers, then I can do some exchange, etc. And they look at me and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean they're serviceable? because then within the OEM, you've got the OE side, the manufacturing, and then you've got the MRO side, and they're not necessarily on the same site, and everybody has their own ideas of like what it looks like, and it's next level. It's next level. So it was like you do one step and then you go backward two, and you're like, come on, like there's something to be done, and there's just so much, and there's other OEMs at the time as well which were doing so well and which understood like what they were missing, and so that's what I wanted to do, and now that's like trading side of this OEM is still going strong. So that's really cool. But for me, and the reason I've stayed just a couple of years there is, well, I just learned how they were working, what the mentality was, and that was like really enriching. But then I was like, the pace is too slow for me. Like I want things to be done straight away. I don't want compliance to be holding me for 45 days. Like this is just not what an AOG is like. Like when I was having an AOG, they were like, "Oh yeah, we should be able to do it in 7 days." I'm like, "You mean 7 minutes? Because this is 7 days is not gonna work." And but yeah, it was good to challenge, like mentalities, and have an understanding of like what's the world of stockist is out there, and um, and that it's all about the relationships and who knows who, and how to help everyone basically. Because in the end, what we all want is just for the airlines to keep flying.
Yes. It's that simple.
Yeah.
The whole industry's job is to keep the airplanes flying. That's it. Safety in flight. That's all we want. And, it's interesting. Sounds like you really tried to bring a different approach to the OEM, and I can see where there's probably resistance inside of that machine. And I giggle a little bit because, 7-day delivery, that actually probably was a fantastic for them. That was probably an improvement over what they usually do, right? And you say 7 minutes, which is that small, nimble, flexible company. And honestly, that's why the aftermarket thrives in aviation, because we can find ways to get to a much quicker solution on all kinds of inventory, because we just can. We don't necessarily have the same infrastructure challenges that maybe some of the OEMs do. And certainly with the current supply chain situation, which still is not as robust as it was, in 2019, I'm sure those lead times are much worse, and those AOGs are even more challenging when you handed them a perfect solution for it. So, well, let's talk a little bit about maybe what's next. Obviously, you're coming up on year one with your software platform. Is that going to be the primary focus? I know you've mentioned a couple of times you enjoy brokering, but is the software solution going to be the primary focus for 2026 for your team?
Yes, definitely. The Smart Renew Partner Program will definitely be what we're focusing on. But the growth of the company is how we are right now. And it's not sustainable to just stay the two of us. Definitely not. But you have to learn how to make things go. I just finished like a 6 months mini MBA course at the University of Brighton. And that helped me to take a step back and just realize, like, you forget like what your core values are, like when you're like just days in days out, like just in the deals and in everything, like you've got the banking, that you've got like the warehousing, you've got everything, and then suddenly you're like, hold on a minute, like why do I do it for, like what am I there for? And I think so that course like was absolutely amazing for me, and for the company. So now we're on the trajectory of like really making DBK more like like to cement the brand and like who we are, more than just like being it myself, which obviously is awesome, but that's not where I want to go. We're gonna hire, like I think in the next 6 months, like we've got like 4 job descriptions about to launch. So that's exciting. That's scary as well, to suddenly not have like the control that I currently have, but it's just what needs to happen. And yeah, it's just like we're expanding as well the warehouse. We're about to take in the next 3 months another unit as well. So all those consignment part of the SRP program can get in comfortably, which is cool because I'm really proud to be able to hire people from the region and from where we are and just be able to give back to the community is something I think really important because England, obviously I'm French, as you can hear, and it's just very important. UK has been the best country ever for me to build a life, and I really want to give back to that community. I mean, and we're around all the others main stockist brokers in aviation. Here we call it the Sussex Mafia. And that's just really funny. People turning around. When I came to England, actually, I was living in a big house, and so I was working for Aftrade. 2 of them were working for AJ Walter. One at the time was working for another black broker as well. It was the house of happiness, and we were all friends. We were all competitors, but we were all friends. We were never talking about work, and it was just there's such a hub here where we are. So that's why I'm excited to see the talents that we are going to acquire soon, and and just have DBK launching into what we want it to look like.
Well, it obviously sounds like an exciting 26 that you've got lined out for yourself. Now, I would ask, you took this MBA course and you talked a little bit about its impact. For our listeners out there, maybe what are the top 1 or 2 highly specific things that you took out of that you're going to implement to really take your company to the next level?
So the marketing side of it, actually, which was something that in my head didn't really exist, or I didn't have the time for it. So that's something, and that's just to have the brand, the awareness of DBK, and so we can attract as well the talents that we want to attract and people to be excited to work with us. So that's something that for me I had put on the side, and that really showed me the different what marketing meant. In my head it was just one thing, social media, and actually it's so much more than that. So that was one thing. And I think just being very clear on our strategy and with our vision, with our mission, our core values. 2 weeks ago, we went with Emma, my colleague. We did an offsite strategy meeting, which again is something that I was doing when I was at UAM. And I thought that was awesome to be somewhere else where you don't have your laptops, you don't have your phones, you just have the people that you need, and then you go, okay, what are we doing in the next 12 months? And it's funny you mentioned about the stickers and writing on the window. You should have seen the hotel room. It was colored here, on my side, you can't see it, but it's just full of stickers as well. But it was really important to understand that to be structured in a way that I always thought I don't have the time, but you just have to take the time, and having professional people and having homework to do every week and study group. I mean, that took a hell of a lot of time for me for the last 6 months, but it was just so amazing, and I will be forever grateful. And it's 90% funded by the government as well here in the UK. So it was a no-brainer. I would say everyone just do it. I'm actually gonna have Emma doing the next session next year, because we will have changed then, and it will be on to the next phase as well.
That's fantastic. I recently did a podcast and that's really focused on branding versus marketing and maybe how to implement some of those things. It was a very good conversation. So keep your eyes posted on the nose to tail so that you can see a little bit about that, because you're correct. It is often misunderstood. A lot of our industry is spawned from like yourself. You worked for other people and then started your own companies. Tons of entrepreneurs all over our marketplace. And I think that a lot of times they just bring the talent that they had. Well, I'm a great salesperson, or I'm a great technical person, or I'm a great mechanic, or I'm good with test equipment. And they take that expertise and they go and solve a problem, but they don't know, they're not business people necessarily. They're just doing smart business and kind of have to figure some of those things out. And then that's one of the obstacles. You know, how do you figure out how to create that brand and bring that to market? So that's a great takeaway from that. Well, we're kind of coming here to the big question I ask everybody, which is I ask everybody what their favorite aircraft is, and to maybe talk about how they put that in their mind. So, what is it for you, Delphine, that is your favorite aircraft?
So I've got a couple, but my favorite one is the Concorde. Unfortunately, I've never flown on it, and I will be forever gutted about it. But I know some people that have multiple times, and just seeing the beauty of it, I'm like, damn it. I can't believe I didn't manage to get my feet in it. But you never know. You've got Boom coming up. Who knows if that's going to lift off or not. But it's definitely, it's just the beauty of the engineering of everything. I think that embodied everything about aviation, which is about being fast, getting you somewhere that you need to be. It's not about the lux or anything like that. It's just the pure beauty of it. I wish I had flown. Have you?
I have not, and I absolutely love the idea of connecting our continents in going whatever Chicago to London in 3 hours would be amazing, and just would bring our world that much closer together. And I certainly think if we think about the technology differential from 50 years ago when that design was put into work to today, certainly we've got generationally improved technologies, but we seem to be flying at a pace that maybe makes sense for a lot of reasons, but certainly would love, since we love the hustle of aviation, it's certainly nice to get there, and that AOG there in 3 hours in the belly of a airplane than it is to have to wait till tomorrow to get your part, right? Funny story on the Concorde. So there's here in Kansas City in one of the suburbs, is a guy bought the nose cone off of the Concorde, and it's in his backyard on display. And very strange connection. I have no idea how all that came about, but he's got this big chunk of the Concorde in his backyard. I'm not sure if he still has it there or not. The suburbs probably don't take kindly to some big display, but I know that was there. So now you mentioned a second aircraft that maybe sneaks into your mind. What would that one be?
It's the A380. Mm-hmm. That's my baby. I know a lot of people hate it, but I love it. I remember being at Paris Air Show the first time it flew. I've got a picture with the A380 for every air show it flew on, and I'm always kissing it, basically. I'm just it's just for me, my brain doesn't understand how it can fly. It's just this beauty. And obviously, my husband for him, it's the 747, the queen of the sky. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, I'm French. It's the A380.
Well, that's fair. I am yet to fly on an A380, but Jet Midwest has purchased a handful of A380s for the components and engines and things. And I remember the first time going to the Mojave Desert to see the aircraft when it landed. It's in storage, and I'm doing inspections on this thing, and I wasn't doing a very good job of inspecting anything because, like you, I was just in awe. And I've been around a lot of wide-body aircraft in my career, and it is a special beast. We actually had one of my colleagues at the time was exploring some sections we were going to cut out for some training, and so he had gotten inside of the vertical stabilizer. So he'd opened up the panel and climbed inside, and it was taking pictures that looked up. I mean, it was surreal how huge this thing is. I'm amazed at what engineers are capable of designing and building. And, they make these things fly, and they fly for 20 straight hours, and it lands, and 4 hours later, off it goes again, full of people and passengers and bags and everything else. And I'm in awe of the intelligence it takes to get all of that done. But it's just an amazing airplane. It's so big.
It is.
So I go to Dubai every once in a while for work, and I seem to get on a flight out of Chicago that's a 777-300ER that's a direct flight to Dubai, because that's pretty convenient for me. But one of these days, I'm just going to fly to London, and then there's an A380 flight from London in, and I'm just going to take that one. I just need to pull the trigger and do it.
Brilliant. Well, you have to pop in.
Yeah. Delphine, this has been amazing. I really appreciate it. Is there anything that maybe you want to elaborate on, or that you think is really important for our listeners to hear about the industry, or any final words for us?
I think maybe just about how I think it's important to have people around you, and surrounding yourself with people that champions you, because I would never be where I am today without my family and friends. And for all the other people that were like, what is she doing? Well, 5 years later, I'm still here, and going stronger than ever. And and obviously having my husband in the industry, it helps dramatically to understand the AOG situations for each other, and just trying to fit our schedules. I think that's something that makes everyone works better, and just the sky is the limit, basically.
Yeah, it's awesome. Somebody asked me one time, they were like, hey, what do you do when the economy of 08 and 09 was pretty challenging for us. And someone asked us, how do you survive a moment like this? I go, well, just kind of work a little harder. Work a little smarter, work a little harder, but you control it yourself. And sometimes the word hustle gets a negative connotation, but I do believe that the hustle of the aftermarket really allows it to control its own destiny and create success, because it's what's needed. Sometimes you need that part in 7 minutes, not 7 days, and that's hugely impactful takeaway.
Absolutely.
So Delphine, we talked a little bit about marketing and maybe even branding as part of your takeaways from your MBA. Maybe you can talk to us about your thoughts on social media, and maybe where it's got an impact in aviation, that either where it is today, or maybe where it's potentially going to go for aviation.
Well, that's a big question. I'm not sure. I think, you mentioned earlier that AI can play as much or as little into any business. There will still be the need, at least in our industry, to have the human touch, the relationship that you will have, being able to call someone for an AOG or whatever. It's really an amazing, interesting side, like the social media, and, the way that people do really quick bucks for just being an influencer or whatever. And that's great. I think it's just for aviation, you've got to be so professional about it, and so detailed, and so really curious about it all. So it's more about how we get people to just really get interested into coming to work for us. And that's to be fair, that's really tricky, because we're not stewards or into the airline. We are in the background. When I say I'm in aviation to people, they're like, oh, who are you flying with? And I'm like, oh, no. I'm selling spare parts. And they're like, the what? The aircraft is what? And I'm like, that's the beauty of it, is for me, something that I absolutely incredibly love is that every day I learn something. Every single day I learn something about a part, or about an aircraft, or about a customer. And, that sticks with me. And I just absolutely love it. It's all about staying children, really, and keeping that curiosity on, and just being wait, how can I help? What else can I do? And just making people excited to come and work with us. I'm hoping that out of the the people that I will get, maybe I can get like some apprenticeship as well, and grow those people from the ground up, and not just have senior people, but just really like building those people and having them. I mean, maybe they will do some TikTok and we will go viral. Who knows? That's not gonna get me like Air France to buy from me, like just because of a TikTok. So I need more than that. Like I need people to be like, "Oh, what about that radar? It's super rare, and I found one that no one has." That gets me excited.
As an industry, you're quite young. We do have an aging industry from a lot of executive and leadership standpoint. I know that from a social media standpoint, I rely a lot on LinkedIn. I think it's a great platform. It's, I think, underutilized by a lot of people, and especially the young people who come to work for Jet Midwest, maybe in our sales or repairs department, and we're having a conversation. I go, well, just pull up LinkedIn. And they're like, huh? I go, yeah, pull up LinkedIn, type in that vendor's name, and then you can see a little bit about them. And it's amazing how you can tell just a short story there, but it's also a place to connect. I used to, as a habit, every time I was traveling, especially internationally, I'd be at a Sky Club or at the pub at the airport with my laptop, and I'd jump in LinkedIn, and all of the people that were saying, hey, do you want to connect with this person? I'd send every single one of them a message. Not the pre-described message that's automated. I would type out a personal message based on the history, and the number of people that I connected with just exploded, because it was just a consistent habit that I created to try and drive more connectivity in the market. And I think things like this podcast, I think, are good. I think we really want people to understand and recognize the name of Jet Midwest, and that we're do a lot of things in aviation. And again, how do we expose them? And from other social media, I don't know if you've seen it. If not, I'll encourage you to go back and look at some of our older podcasts. But Jack Schneider, who's a young man, who's an engineer with Boeing, had his own YouTube page, just kind of spawned out of the videos he would take when he was in engineering school. He'd just take videos of his experiments, and had hundreds of thousands of followers who were just kind of intrigued by it. So, my hope is that certainly when we think about social media and those things, can we get another generation excited about the uniqueness of what aviation is? And I think that's important. And it'll lead, I think, to your part of what you just said, which is, we'll get people excited. Then we could bring them in as interns, and we can start teaching them. They don't necessarily, there's not a singular path, that's for sure, in this business. And being able to bring people in that way would be fantastic. So I certainly think social media has got a place, and it'll be up to us as dynamic leaders to find ways to crack that code a little bit and see if we can really get this next generation excited about the cool stuff we do, because it's pretty awesome on a day-to-day basis.
I think your podcast is just amazing, like how rich it is, and how you go to so many different people. I love the one with Diane from Bellet, from the jumpsuit. That cracked me up. I was like, I'm buying her book right away. Yep. And it's just it's really, like you say, this is the next step. And we spend so much time in cars, and stuff, or in airplanes, everything. So having, I'm always on podcast, and I've actually always listened to yours. So that was quite incredible to receive the email from you guys. But it's just that's an amazing way to get people to understand behind the scene of what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked a little bit about some trade shows you're doing, and I know I certainly enjoy the trade show circuit to go see our friends, especially post-COVID. Everybody's really thirsty for face-to-face with everybody. Maybe you can tell us the best, worst trade show story that you've got.
Can it be only trade show, or can I squeeze another one?
Oh, no. By all means, you can pick the best, worst story in aviation. That's a good segue. We might have to make this a new segment.
There's one that I think is anchored in my memory for life. I was about to sign a big contract with an airline customer, very big contract for me. I was like, wow, this is epic. So I called my customer and I'm like, okay, I'm coming with the contract. You're signing it on the table. and I take you out for dinner with the other colleague, and I'm taking with me the customer support that's been helping me behind the scene to make it happen. And we go to a nice restaurant. It's in Copenhagen, which to start with, that set the pace. And he's like, oh yes, no problem, Delphine. I've booked somewhere very nice. And I'm like, cool, no problem. We go there. Like first, you need to knock like a certain number of times to get into that restaurant. And I was like, where are we going? And then you enter and it's like unbelievable in there. Like Italian kind of restaurant, amazing. No menus at all. And it's just wine flowing, wine pairing with like courses after courses. And I'm like, how many courses is there? And they say 11. And I'm like, oh my God. At the time with the company I was working, we didn't have credit card, like company credit cards. You were just like expensing everything on your own card. And then they would reimburse you. But you had to prove why you were there, blah, blah, blah. Like 3 hours later, I have to pay. And it's in Danish krone. And there's like so many numbers. I'm like, how much is it in euros? And I'm under the desk and I'm like under the table and trying like to find, and I'm not quick enough like to find. And then I try to put my card. My bank calls me instantly and they say, are you in Denmark? I'm like, yes. Well, you've got like a really, really expensive like thing happening, debit. I'm like, yes, just let it go through because otherwise I don't know what's gonna happen. So they let it through. Oh my God, I've never been so sick in my life. Like, I think it was crazy money. I had never spent that on a dinner for 4 people. And when I had to like get it expensed, like my boss was definitely not happy with me. Thank God I got it expensed, but I was like, never again. I'm letting a customer book a restaurant on my behalf. Never. This is never happening.
Yes, I had to have fallen into that trap. I had an agent of ours who's a good colleague, and we were in Madrid and meeting with Iberia. And so we go to the offices and we have some meetings with lots of different people. And so we go to dinner, and I think there'll be like 4 of us. There were like 18 people. And I'm like, this was not what I was anticipating. Now, luckily, I had the good old American Express Platinum from Jet Midwest, so I was covered. But I feel your sweat when you don't know what the bill is, and let alone what it's translated to. So, well, that's fantastic.
So I think that was like my worst like memory, which is a fun one now. Not happy like when it happened, but probably like the best memory is, well, the best thing happening to me within this industry is finding my husband, who was at the time my best customer. Obviously, we stopped dealing with each other as soon as we understood like something would be happening. But that's the beauty of the industry, and it's just like wouldn't find like do it any other way. It's just been absolutely amazing, a wild ride.
That's great. It's always great to find love in the right place, and certainly since you both have maybe you're a little bit, maybe not all of it's there. That's why you're in aviation. You fit great, you know? Aviation's an interesting matchmaker, that's for sure. Well, Delphine, I really appreciate it. I love hearing your story, you know, from intern to entrepreneur. And I think our listeners are really going to enjoy this podcast. For all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to our podcast, Nose to Tail. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Presented by Jet Midwest.